Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul, and in this RedGamer.com video, we're going to be discussing and analysing tech news, which as usual has popped up over the past 24 or so hours. We're going to be starting things out with Apple, because the company have just apologised for slowing down your iPhone. Isn't that jolly considerate of them? We'll get into that in a moment. Then we're going to move over to China, because the regulator over there is looking at DRAM/NAND pricing by manufacturers, and then we're going to finish off with McAfee, because he claims that he has been hacked. Yes, that's right. The man who is currently working on plans to sell the world's most hack-proof smartphone has himself been the victim of hacking. Couldn't make this stuff up, could you? Anyway, let's begin with Apple. So, this one made quite the impact. Essentially what happened, of course, is that Apple got caught slowing down your iPhone if the battery went through a certain number of cycles. This was originally spotted on Reddit, where users claimed that if you replaced the battery of the phone, the performance of the phone went up, and then that prompted others to start doing their own investigations, for example the author of Geekbench, and subsequently Apple eventually confirmed it. Then some class action lawsuits started to emerge, and fast forward to just a few days after Christmas, Apple have officially apologised. Well, apologised in an Apple way. There are 3 key points to the letter which Apple have placed out. I'll put the full link to the letter in the video description, but I want to focus on these 3 points. Apple is reducing the price of our out-of-warranty iPhone battery replacement by $15. So they're going to charge you $29 rather than $79. And for anyone with an iPhone 6 or later whose battery needs to be replaced, starting in late January and available worldwide through December 2018. Details will be provided on their website. Early in 2018, we will also issue an iOS software update, which will feature users more visibility into the health of their iPhone's battery, so they can see for themselves if the condition is affecting performance. That's jolly considerate of them, isn't it? And as always, our team is working to ways to make the user experience even better. I'm sorry, I couldn't say that with a straight... I'm sorry. That was very unprofessional. I could not read that. I could not read that without laughing. I'm sorry. Our team is working on ways to make the user experience even better, including improving how we manage to performance and avoid unexpected shutdowns as batteries age. So, there are a couple of things, and you may say, well, that's not too bad. I mean, they're reducing the price of battery replacements. That's not bad. And they're offering an update for free, one would presume. Yeah, notice one thing they are missing, though. The option of just saying, no, I don't want to throttle my device. Now, as I said in a video I covered this in originally, I don't actually mind the fact that they are throttling the phone necessarily, but the problem is the manner in which it is done. There's a couple of primary issues I have. The first is that you don't get an option, and here it still looks like the option is not present, so you can't just say, no, I'm fine, I don't want to do this. The second is that it's just, well, on a certain number of cycles. So, and I've said this before, so I'll keep it brief, but depending on the condition which you treat your phone, or rather the phone is in, this can range from the temperature your phone operates in to little things like how much do you charge it, how much do you use it, just general stuff like your usage scenario and where you live, that type of stuff, of course, is all going to vary on a person-to-person basis. So, for example, me in, let's say, London, may have a very different battery life to you in, let's say, Texas. Especially if perhaps I take really good care of the battery, or perhaps you take awful care of the battery. It's, you know, it's very personal to that device. It's unique. So the problem is, the phone is just saying, hey, X number of cycles, bang. And the bottom line is, I don't like that. Now, just to clarify, if, for example, the phone noticed that, hey, you know, the phone's doing logs and it's checking, hey, when the CPU usage hits, let's say 90% or above CPU usage, and it shuts down, and it notices this after a certain number of times, the battery has, let's say, gone through X number of cycles, then it would advise you, it would be like, hey, we're going to start the phone up in like safe mode or whatever, minimal stuff running in the background. We highly advise you to run the phone with this particular feature enabled because it has been detected that your phone's battery can no longer sustain stable operation. And it basically said, hey, you can do it without that, but yeah, this is likely what's causing the shutdowns of your phone. You know, obviously, they could tailor it to make it perhaps a little more spiffy than that, but you get the general gist. I don't think anyone would have minded. I think people would have actually been quite happy with Apple. But the issue with this is they're essentially saying, well, yeah, we're going to charge you still to replace the battery, and there is no official apology, really. If you read between the lines, they're saying sorry, but not really sorry. They're still charging you for a battery replacement, and it's pretty much, to me, still planned obsolescence. The questions are numerous with this, and perhaps the most obvious one, what's going to happen with the class action lawsuits, because obviously Apple are kind of hoping that they'll nip those in the bud. Well, it's worth noting that, of course, the class action lawsuits could technically continue, but obviously Apple are hoping to build some goodwill in the meantime. Let's face it, Apple have had a couple of things biting them in the ass when it comes to publicity at the moment. Indeed, a couple of days ago, on December the 26th, something around that time, there was actually a report on the Motley Fool that Apple are looking to reduce the prices of previous generation iPhone models, and they're also possibly going to be releasing up to 3 new devices in 2018. And these are going to range in prices, but probably around the $650 to $699 US mark, and of course they're going to feature LCDs and, you know, all of the latest technology. So obviously Apple are definitely feeling the fact that they've not had the sales numbers that you would probably have imagined the company would have just a couple of years ago. There's a lot more that I could say on this issue, but frankly I'm going to wait to see what happens with the update. Perhaps Apple will improve, you know, the functionality of this, and perhaps it will be an optional update. Definitely keep pressuring them. Don't be rude, of course, on social media. Don't threaten them or any of that stuff. But do tell them, hey, if you don't give us the option for our next phone, we're going to go with X, whatever X may be, whether it's an Android phone or well, I don't know, Windows phone. Okay, probably an Android phone. Let's just be honest. Anywho, some good news, possibly, but probably not. Let's look into the Chinese market and DRAM. So, of course, it doesn't take a genius to know that RAM prices have been going up fast recently. And we discussed this just a few weeks ago, how RAM prices, profitability is absolutely crazy at the moment. In fact, in some areas, we're looking at up to 70% growth. Indeed, as we close out fourth quarter of 2017, I did report this just, as I said, a couple of weeks ago. There was, actually I think it was a bit less than that, it's probably about a week ago. We were looking at a sales forecast of RAM of 21.1 billion in sales level, and this is compared to 12.8 billion of the same quarter in 2016, so consider this, that's a 65% increase, which is absolutely just bonkers. And just to remind you, the reason behind this increased demand is numerous. Well, some of it is data center, some of it, of course, is the emergence of mining. Then, of course, we've got the new generation of consoles. This is the Xbox One, the Xbox One X, the PlayStation 4, the PlayStation 4 Pro, the Switch. The fact that we are seeing SSDs becoming increasingly common, and we definitely cannot forget the adoption of smart devices in poorer countries, whereas before they had, well, no smartphone or no smart device. Now they are starting to have devices which are, let's say, 1 GB in size, and that might not sound like a big deal, that's quite a small quantity of RAM, but consider this, when you're talking about hundreds of millions of sales, and those individuals before were taking 0 of the RAM quantity that was available in the market, and now of course they're buying these devices in millions as these devices become cheaper, then obviously you can see the problem. So there are 4 major NAND production players. They are Samsung, Hynix, Micron and Toshiba. Now some of these companies are already looking into increasing the manufacturing capability and also investing in additional refineries. However, China are not happy. Now, China, of course, have very much a vested interest in this market because Chinese vendors produce a hell of a lot of smartphones. Now, I'm probably going to pronounce this name incorrectly, so I profusely apologize to anyone who is of Chinese origin, but a quote was given to the Chinese newspaper Daily China, and the official's name was Xu Xinyu. I'm going to spell that out for you because I'm not once again sure of the pronunciation. That is XU and then the latter name XINYU, and they were quoted in saying, "We have noticed the price surge and will be paying more attention to future problems that may be caused by price fixing in this sector." Of course, how much difference China can make in the pricing of the memory is, well, to be seen. After all, the companies are already telling us that they are starting to increase production, and the best thing I can say is that obviously China are a massive consumer of DRAM, so perhaps they can help to pressure these companies into providing better deals to customers, but that may not necessarily help you if you're buying a couple of sticks of DDR4 for your PC. As usual, we can only wait and see how this story develops. Finally, let's talk about John McAfee, shall we? This is a shorter piece of news because it's more amusing to me than anything. Not in a, negative way. I don't dislike the man. It shows you just how careful you need to be online, I suppose. So, we all know John McAfee. He is pretty much a celebrity of sorts, I guess, in the tech world. And he claims that he's had his Twitter account hacked and used to promote various cryptocurrencies. Now, he has claimed that the incident undermined his security because Twitter's security is out of his control. Obviously, it's like, I don't know, say Facebook or whatever. You can't necessarily control, the level of encryption or whatever that Facebook use. Obviously, you could do smart things, like, for example, not use the password ABC123. But if you are using a fairly competent password, if something else happens in the back end, that's not really your fault. However, he did also admit that his phone might have been compromised, and he claims that the reason he believes this is because the hacker in question intercepted the authentication code, that is utilized when you have two-factor authentication enabled with Twitter. I don't know why I can't speak suddenly. And according to John, he said, "The first indication that I'd been hacked was turning on my phone and seeing the attached image. I knew at that point my phone had been compromised. I was on the boat at the time, so I could not go to my carrier, who is AT&T, and have the issue corrected. All that the hacker did was compromise my Twitter account. It could have been worse," end quote. Indeed, one of his tweets was, and I quote, "Though I am a security expert, I have no control over Twitter's security. I have haters, I am a target. People make fake accounts, fake screenshots, fake claims. I am a target for hackers who lost money and blame me. Please take responsibility for yourselves, adults only, please," end quote. Currently, John McAfee has no idea how he was originally hacked, and I imagine he's being rather fastidious regarding his investigations of this matter. Now, the reason I bring this up isn't to point and laugh at John. As I said, I have no ill will towards the man at all, but it's more to just remind you the normal stuff. Like, if you feel something is off, if, for example, you think a link is a bit suspect, the normal stuff, I'm sure most of you are aware of this by now, but I just want to hammer the point home. After all, at the end of the day, Mr. McAfee is an expert in this, and I'm not saying that to have a chuckle at his expense. I'm being genuine when I say that, it happens to everyone. So as usual, make sure you've got good passwords. Be sure you don't click on suspicious links. But even after all of that, if someone really, 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 really wants to hack you, and they have the skills and they're determined enough, there is a good chance that, well, you're going to be having issues. With all of that said, hopefully you have enjoyed the video. I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye for now.